welcome to the podcast. So excited for you to meet Carrie Birchler. She is with the Allegiance STEAM Academy, ASA, in California. It's a public charter school. You're going to learn about how the school was formed, how she worked her way into a full-time role with the school, talk about how they use social media, some of the best stories. And then she's also going to break down how she plans out some recurring content year to year with a free tool called Asana. You're not going to want to miss this episode. Now, if you enjoy learning from this podcast, if you've been connected to Social School for EDU for some time, sharing is caring, you guys. And I am on a mission to help more schools positively celebrate their schools with social media. And I'm asking for your help. Will you share this with at least one person this week? Okay. Whether you share this episode, you share my website, you share that a free download that you can get if you share our Facebook page and say, hey, this page offers some great tips. You guys, not everybody has heard about Social School for EDU, and we have been helping schools since the year 2014. We have learned a lot in the last decade plus, and we want to help a lot more people. And the way we do that, the easiest way is for you to share it with at least one person this week. So will you do it? That's my challenge for you. All right. Now, before we get into this week's episode, let's start with a little K-12 PR tip. All right. Today's K-12 PR tip is something I just learned. And so I wanted to share it with you. Maybe you know this already, but Instagram Reels. Okay. Oh my goodness, have our schools inside our membership group and our school districts that we serve directly, we've been doing some great storytelling through the short form video content, 90 seconds or less, on both Instagram and Facebook. Now, I like to create a lot of my Instagram Reels on Instagram, and then they post to both Instagram and Facebook. But in the past, there's been some issues with trying to schedule Reels. Well, guess what? In your more options before you publish a reel to Instagram, you have the ability to schedule the reel to post. And in the past, it hasn't wanted to schedule it to both Instagram and Facebook. But now, as long as you have Facebook and Instagram connected, it's going to post on both. Okay. Which is amazing because I wanted to share a cute running video, kind of fast forward from one of our cross country races. And I wanted it to be a kickoff to the new week and taking the hill by storm, right? Like we've got this week with a little motivational music. But I wanted to share it at 6 a.m. on Monday morning. And I didn't want to necessarily be up having to push the publish button. So I tried it and it worked. So try that out in Instagram with Reels. There are some options there. If you click more, you can actually schedule it out. And as long as the toggle switch to post on Facebook is on as well, it's going to post on both. So you're welcome if that's new to you. If it's not, let's get to this week's episode and let's meet Carrie Birchler. Welcome to the podcast, Carrie Birchler. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm really good. I'm very excited to have to feature you on the podcast. I would love for you to just share your background and then your role with the Allegiance STEAM Academy in California. It's a rather long title, so I'll let you maybe share that.
Yeah, ASA, we call it. So I've spent about the last 16 years working with primarily charter schools, but also with independent private schools, as well as consulting, primarily focusing on school communication, outreach marketing, digital media, and enrollment. Before starting with Allegiance STEAM Academy, or ASA, I was working as a communication consultant, and I was asked to join their staff full-time about a year and a half ago. And while my initial role was that communication strategy development and delivery, I then took on the role of recruitment and enrollment, which is community engagement. And we are a 2-campus charter school organization serving about 1,200 students in 2 cities across Southern California.
Okay. And I was just in Southern California. I was in Orange County. Well, I flew into Orange County. So how far are you from that airport?
Oh gosh, 30 minutes.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, we're
All
about
right.
30
Well,
minutes to the east.
I'm traveling there again. Maybe I need to see if we can connect in
I'd
person.
love it. I'd
So,
absolutely love it.
so 1,200 students, two campuses, and then is ASA a public charter school?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Oh,
Tuition-free public charter school.
okay. And how does social media fit into your role?
So I think the overall goals of inspiring, engaging, informing are the same across most school organizations, right? We use a lot of traditional mediums, including, parent meetings, parent contact programs. We use our phone blasts, our email blasts, our text messaging. So social media is really about that community building, right? Creating a place where our people are already spending time. Um, and, I really try to look through the lens of someone that doesn't know about us, right? What kind of programs or initiatives or activities or community can we articulate through our social media that might get the interest of someone that says, hey, what is this? What is a charter school? What does ASA have to offer? So, we utilize it pretty heavily. We like to, of course, share our story. I've learned so much from being part of the membership community. It is, such a vital part of what I do for professional development and support and soundboarding. But I would say that overall, I would say most education institutions, have that overall goal of not only attracting prospective families, but really creating those connections and serving as another channel, right? Because we're so busy and information comes to us in so many ways today. Um, even if they've seen it or scrolled past it on another avenue or platform, it's nice to have those messages reinforced on socials.
Yeah. And what channels do you manage for the school then?
Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. Have you thought of other channels? Is there a reason why you've kind of stayed in that lane?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always looking at what's new, and the bright shiny object syndrome, I think attracts all of us. So while we have definitely explored jumping into some of the newer, shinier things, like TikTok, I also really believe in consistency. I really believe in managing what we can and creating a consistent presence. I think larger districts that have more opportunities for maybe student interns or site assistants in creating their content probably are more successful in managing multiple channels. But with our organization at our current stage, I don't know that we could do more than what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can get spread too thin, and that's not good either. So you have a very grassroots story to getting your school started, and then how your role has kind of grown. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So back in that 2005, 2008-ish timeframe, I was a young mom with three new students attending our neighborhood public school that we absolutely loved. We loved our teachers. We loved our community. I was pretty involved. I'd volunteer everywhere I could. And at the same time, I had, creative hobbies. I was a scrapbooker and I was a boutique photographer and I would dabble in photography and blogging. And, I dipped my toes into this new thing called Facebook. So it was 2008 and our district was facing a reduction in force time. All right, RIF, they were reducing the labor force based on enrollment projections. And I'll never forget, it was a Friday night. I was on Facebook and I saw the list of teachers that were going to be pink slipped or let go. And I had an absolute visceral response because these are the teachers that we know and love and count on. And by no fault of their own, it was just the labor practices of reducing and protecting the seniority. They were no longer going to be part of our school. So our community, teachers and parents really went into problem solving mode immediately. And we held a meeting and, somebody talked about what if we created a charter school? And at the time, I didn't know what a charter school was. Very few of us did. Charter schools have been around since 31 years, 32 years in California. I know they started in Minnesota, but it was a fairly unknown concept in our community. So I remember loading up my car and driving a group of moms out. We would research and call and ask if we could come see what they do. And we toured several charter schools and we asked questions. And the site administrative leadership on these school sites were very forthcoming with trying to help us and giving us their stories and their advice. So we all decided to get to work and see if we could make it happen, right? If we could write a petition, if we could create a place to protect the teachers. That was our initial driving reason. We wanted to keep and protect our great teachers. And we were a group of parents that were donating time and talent to make this kind of dream happen. We had no budget. We had no office space. We had no paid staff. We couldn't afford to print flyers or postcards or do any of that traditional media. So, we all had different strengths and we all had different talents. And, like I said, I had my little mommy blog and I knew how to take pictures. So I offered to kind of create our first blogger.com, our first free blog site. And I, claimed our Facebook page. And, it was absolutely amazing. And social media has changed tremendously, we all know. But in 2008, the ability of organic reach to get your message out there and the way people found us and the way they stayed informed, we did a lot of community building meetings. We'd go to the senior center or the library meeting room or parks or living rooms, and we would talk to parents and present the program and, kind of get this founding team of educators and parents together. But social media was the place where they got that calendar of events. So, that's really how it started. We were parents literally donating reams of paper to print the documents, and blogging and Facebook was the quickest, most affordable, and most accessible way to get our message out there.
So did you guys open doors in 2008 or was it 2009?
It was 2010. Yeah,
2010.
it was
So it
a it
took
was
a
a
few years.
2-year process. Our
Okay.
first charter was not approved. We went back to work. We did the refinements. We, going back in memory now, I want to say on lottery day, we had 728 seats available. We rented space at a local church, had a huge public showing of all the people that had been following us. And we had over 1,750 applications for that
Holy cow.
first year. Mhm.
You did some major marketing there, Carrie, to get your word out. I think, I guess, just a question, social media with the charter school versus social media with a public school. Are there differences in the approach or strategies, or are they the same? What would you say to that?
Well, I do believe the overall goal is the same, right? You want to inform, inspire, you want to really increase that know, like, and trust factor. You want to tell great stories. So uh, from that, the goal is the same. The strategy may differ slightly in that, we really need to um, inform people, right? That we're an option, that we exist, and we need to myth bust a little bit and dispel misunderstandings. Our particular schools have always been dress code schools or uniform schools. So sometimes that first impression is, oh, it must be private. Oh, it must be expensive. Oh, and it's not. It's not. We're a tuition-free public charter school. We serve all students. So doing that lift of educating and at the same time, really that advocacy piece to empower parents to really go out and take a look at the options that are out there. And through this work, I've really been educated myself in learning what kind of expansive programs our traditional public districts offer, right? The career and technical education, the pathway programs, the academies. So we're all really pulling toward the same goal, and that is providing outstanding academic experiences for kids.
Now, you've just worked for the school, you said, in like a full-time role for the last year and a half. Is that right?
Correct.
Did you help run the social media even before that? Or
I
was
did.
somebody? Okay.
I did.
So, how did you get content to share? Because I'm assuming you weren't in the classrooms all the time.
Right. And I'm not in the classroom now.
Okay.
I'm running between the campuses and focus on enrollment and, different pieces of it. So, honest truth, Andrea, is I followed the teaching from your community group, right? I think that not only the office hours and the sharing of what works in the field for other schools, I've been able to admire and acquire and modify to fit our school. So last year, I took the strategy of printing posters for every classroom with that, headline, celebrate our school one story at a time. So I didn't create anything new there. It was something that was shared in the group, but put our colors and created a QR code so staff members could easily submit their content, their stories. I, of course, get content on my text message and by email. I'll take it any way they'll provide it. But really being responsive and posting, so they can see their stories and they can see their students, and giving photo credit as much as I can, and tying it back into our academic standards. I think all of those strategies work together. This year, Alice Seufert, she had shared a QR code on a sticker for the back of the ID card. So again, I adopted that strategy, and those are going out to all of our staff members. And, it's just creating that easy pathway. And I'm also going to follow Alice's model of, writing the acknowledgement, thank you for being a change maker or social media, a communication star, some kind of wording just to acknowledge their contributions, because really that's what it's all about. Our teachers and paraprofessionals and staff members capturing these learning moments.
Yeah, you're really building those relationships. And you've said a couple times, so you're part of the Social School for EDU. We have a paid membership program, and you've been in the program. This is going on your second year, right?
I was a member with a former organization. I worked for an all boys school, and I was a member for the first time then. That was probably 2016, 2018-ish.
Well, I started the membership group in 2019
Oh,
formally.
that was 2019.
So then it was probably then.
Okay.
Okay. And then now you've been in it in this role. Yeah, that's our paid program. And gosh, we have a great community. We also have a annual retreat that you can apply for. We've probably got 700-800 members. We've got over 450 school districts that are part of our group. But Carrie was one of them that got to come to my house in Wisconsin. I'm looking at her beautiful picture that Alice had.
I
You talk
love that.
about personal notes. Alice had printed out a picture and wrote me a nice message on the back. But we got to come together in person and really share and grow. And man, I think that's my secret weapon to Carrie with all of these things, is just getting ideas from other people. So definitely you can come join us. Oh, there's your
I have
card.
mine right here.
I love it. Which is another great idea. Like if you ever need a card idea, just print out one of your pictures, right? For
I love
social
it.
media content. So we certainly welcome you if you've ever considered come aboard, because it is very helpful. But it's just great to see you taking action and really seeing results. So I've got a couple more questions, but I want to ask, like, what are some of the best stories that you've been able to share on social media? Whether that you've chased them down to get more context, or that you've gotten submitted from staff.
Gosh. So I had to kind of go back, and it was a tip again from the membership group of kind of doing a recap of your top or most popular posts. And our mascot is the wolf. We are the ASA Wolves, and our CEO partnered or found an organization that does wolf rescue up in Acton, California. And not only do they rescue and care for these wolves, they have an ambassador pack that they're with trainers. They're very calm, but they do a lot of education to, again, dispel myths that might be misunderstood, common misunderstandings of the wolf and their qualities and why protect these animals. So we've been able to bring the ambassador pack to our school to educate our students. So that got a lot, because who has live wolves come to their school?
Right.
That was a really cool post. Um, One day, PE, we've got dedicated PE coaches that just do such a great job of mixing it up. I always say when I was a kid, my classroom teacher might take us outside and have us run a lap or do some jumping jacks. Today they're teaching line dancing, and they had done this Filipino dance, and I don't pronounce it correctly, but it's tink something with a Tink, but it's a stick, kind of a jumping dance. And so they did it to Queen's "We Will Rock You." So the music was great and the activity was great, and these kids are totally engaged, and just celebrating culture and celebrating movement, in a unexpected way. So those kinds of in the classroom teaching moments are always super well received. Um, I did have a sixth grade teacher that shared a video he took. And years ago, there was this thing going around called the Mannequin Challenge. And it was everybody would freeze. I saw some, being done at maybe a holiday gathering with a family, or maybe it was a dorm room or a team, just freezing. And then someone took their cell phone and went around the room, right? And you saw everyone in this trying not to laugh or move. So this teacher had 3 different scenes, right? So he did 3 continuous rolls around the room, and he sent it to me, and I thought, well, that's neat, but I didn't really understand like what the learning purpose was. And so when he then went back and provided the explanation, this was about adopting a persona. It was taking English language arts, from a dramatic text and then developing a persona. And it was about hitting your mark and working as a team. And he had all of these really great anchor points that then it made sense of why we were looking at sixth grade students, standing in a frozen position. So I wasn't able to go put text overlays and play this 3-minute continuous shot. And it was, really cool to see it. And again, it's just that inventive teaching that I might have missed. I wouldn't have known it was happening. But thanks to this teacher that, not only thinks outside of the box and mixes it up and keeps it fun for kids, but, he took the time to capture and share it with us.
Yeah, that's powerful. I'd like to get some, if I can get the links to those posts, we'll put
Yeah,
those in the show notes,
of course.
with the live wolves at the school, the Fayed dance, and then that mannequin challenge. And I think you bring up just a great point because there's some trending things that are fun that are, but then you're just like, well, what does this really say about our school? But in any of those cases, if kids have to work together to create something, I mean, it's teamwork, it's collaboration, it's trying to figure out, okay, how do we make that work at our school? There's a lot that can go into that, and in some cases being able to have fun, and relate with one another. There are those social emotional connections that we're trying to make at our school too. So I think that's good, but like you said, it is good to tie it back to what the kids are learning, and
Absolutely.
can be so powerful. And it's going to help all your content be seen by more people if you have people interacting with some of that content that's a little more, gets more, interaction.
Sure.
So, question for you, because you recently did a skills session for us in the membership group. We've got, obviously our team teaches a little bit, but mainly we bring in people from all over sharing what works. And you broke down Asana. So Asana is kind of a project management tool. My team actually uses that to kind of stay on top of projects where multiple people are have steps in a process to get it completed. But you're using it in a unique way, I think, where it's mainly to kind of plan out some of your social content. So can you break that down a little bit for us? I know you're not going to get into all the how to's that you got to do in that video, but can you explain that to the listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love Asana. Everything goes in Asana. It is my North Star for work, because when I open my Asana and I go to my tasks, I know exactly priority wise and due date wise where I need to focus. So as you mentioned, it's a really good collaboration tool when you're working with multiple people and multiple steps and multiple projects. In my mind, it is much easier to have clarity than a big, messy Google Drive, which tends to be my drive. But I, this year, decided to take a 12-month board view. And Asana, it's a free tool. It's free for teams of up to 15, and it has tremendous flexibility. So if your, I guess, work style is to look in a linear fashion and just see a clean list of tasks, you can set your board up or set your list up to look that way. I like a board view, which is kind of like a Kanban board. So think of sticky notes on a wall, across the process, and then you can drag and drop. But Asana also allows you to upload attachments. And if it's an image file, that board will turn into a card, which shows a small thumbnail of that image. So for social media planning, it's really great. So I can plan the months ahead and remind myself, oh, open enrollment starts here. I better start communicating about it the month prior. Or our intent to return forms need to go out, or triad conferences. I mean, we all know our seasons and our activities that need to happen every year. But what I try to avoid is that surprise of, I forgot that was coming and I need to, scramble and create some content. So Asana is that great, not only placeholder, but it allows me the flexibility of pulling up what I did last year to either refresh it or repurpose it. It allows for feedback, because now that all these visual pieces are in one space where my teammates can take a look and maybe catch an error or give me approval or say, hey, we also need, this content piece created, that is our hub. So I'm using it, like I said, as a 12-month planner throughout the school year. And I like to create my first column as my resources column. And what I mean by that is if I see a great tip in the community, the Social Schools for EDU community, or there's a template that I downloaded, or, who knows, there's just so much information coming at us all day, every day. I need a place to be able to easily find it. And that Asana board makes that easy. And I mean, that's pretty much what our school skill session went over. And, I like that ability to pop in those pictures, because my eye is drawn to visuals and artwork. And, it's really fun and kind of satisfying to see a board filled with your branded products ready to go.
Yeah. Now, do you set that up kind of like, do you set some time in the summer then where you're kind of looking at that next academic year and kind of reassigning those things? Or are those things that come up, let's say every March or every February? Can you set those up on a recurring basis to like remind you in the future of doing some similar tasks year to
So
year?
a little bit of both, Andrea.
Okay.
So I had used it on a more project level last year. This year, when we did our summer calendar meetings with our site staff and our administrators, I put together in Canva this vertical table. So every month was the header, and then we popped in our minimum days, our in-service days, just to kind of create that visual of what the year looks like. So I use that as the inspiration for creating the Asana board. The Asana board, of course, is not public facing. So I set it this summer based on calendar meetings. I can then either choose to make it a recurring task, or I can just duplicate that whole board. So right now it's named 24-25 comms plan. Next year, I'll duplicate the board and call it 25-26 communication plan or comms plan. And then I can go in and modify the variables.
Okay. And I really like it because those of you who have been in social media for a decade, like I have, you know that back in the day, we used to be able to, schedule out in Facebook, or now it's called Meta, up to 6 months in advance. So that was awesome. And then it was 75 days. And now it's only 29 days within Meta. And so I could see if you utilize something like Asana, if you had something that, let's just say, needed to be done every month, you potentially could put things in there. And it's basically a really nice task to do list. Instead of, I mean, I'm still a paper and pen gal, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like I don't want to write down the same task, day after day after day if I didn't get something done. In Asana, it works well from your phone, works well from your computer, and like you said, it's free. There's all this capability that you're talking about that still doesn't cost you anything.
Right.
So thanks so much for sharing about that. Any last tips on Asana for the listeners?
No, and I think your nod to the reoccurring tasks and setting those reminders is vital. So I definitely do that too for things that just have to be brought back up to my attention. But my best advice is to just get in there and start, create a personal, well, use a work email domain so your organization, once you're ready to share it with others, can be used. But there's just so many great YouTube videos and tutorials out there, and there are communities that have paid training as well. And I learn best from peers, right? When others show me how they use it in practice, a lot of times that's more beneficial than going through the manufacturers, creators tutorials.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, Carrie, I want to just ask you a question because you obviously have a lot of experience in digital communication, in social media. I would say that you are pretty advanced when it comes to your social media skill set, but yet you still find value in the membership group. And I'm thankful for it because, like I said, we lean on so many, experts around. But if somebody is listening and they're kind of like, I got social media, like I don't think I need to pay, which it's not very much for a year membership.
Oh, so
But
worth it.
what would you say to somebody like that's maybe thinking, no, I don't need that? What would you say to them?
So I think in our industry, we talk about lifelong learners, right? That's what we inspire to, or aspire to inspire, right? We want this lifelong learning and, never thinking you're done. And I think that really needs to be, top of mind when it comes to our professional learning. And because my role is classroom adjacent, right? We put so much into training our teachers, and we bring in guest educators, and I participate in professional development as much as I can, but I'm not in the classroom in front of students. So I don't get that same level of PD, as a classroom teacher would. So I've always had to kind of go out, and whether it's through YouTube or through paid trainings, learn the latest and greatest tools and techniques to sharpen my own saw. And when I found the Social School for EDU community, it just brought it all together. It just brought it into focus, because I may have been, taking general business, digital marketing classes over here, or branding coursework over here. And it was beneficial for sure, but it wasn't focused on school populations and school community building. So that is number one, lifelong learning. And number two, having a community of people that get it. Number three, and it's really, Andrea, how you and your team nurture and encourage the group. You don't ever act like a sage on the stage. I know all, and you're here to learn from me. You're very, very open to having your community contribute and bring in ideas and resources and tips. And that retreat this summer was so game changing. I mean, I'm just going to put it into that, right? Getting to see and meet people that, I have admired and watched online, but, now we're here, now we're connecting, now we're, it's not as short and quick on the keyboard and move on to our workday. We had a chance to really take a deep dive, and, people that I already professionally had respect for, now I have this personal connection with. So all of those things combined, and the membership cost is not big at all. It is so worth it on so many levels. And, thank you for feeling like I have this, background. And I have a background for sure, but it's, not necessarily a traditional education. I mean, I went to college for communication and political science. So it was in something different, but it was a long time ago.
Right.
So what they're teaching in communication and digital media today is very different than what I earned my degree in. So I'm just really grateful for the opportunity and the access and the community.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously social media is not your only job.
Right.
So if we can make it that part a little bit easier. And I'm just really going to encourage you. We're going to link all the Facebook and the Instagram page for ASA in the show notes. So I'd love for you to take a look at those pages. Carrie does a great job with the storytelling that goes along with everything. Plus the branding is spot on. So just a lot there to, as she said, admire and acquire. So I think I maybe made you say your tip. So if you want to say something else, but as we kind of wrap up, what would you say is your best social media tip for listeners?
Wow. I would say acknowledgement, right? Just really putting back, shining that spotlight back on the people that make it all happen. And, that is not only our teachers, of course, it's our kids, it's our students, it's the parents, it's the community. It's really making everyone feel that their role is vital. We're all pulling toward the same goal, and that's student academic success. So as much as we can diversify our storytelling and, make sure we're celebrating our volunteers. And, National Attendance Month is September. And on its own, that can sound kind of dry, right? But when you drill down and you acknowledge, what the families do to make this happen and how they create that value system in their own homes and, celebrate the reporting, right? Analytics and numbers and what you measure gets results. Those kinds of strategies at acknowledging what it takes to create a successful school community.
Attitude of gratitude, that's what I
That's
think
right.
of. And it's yeah, just really reflecting. I mean, yes, we're telling the story of, hey, our school's amazing, but you tell that story by reflecting on all the people that make up the pieces. Like you said, whether it's students, staff, volunteers, parents, your leadership, your school board, or
Yep.
so that's great. So, Carrie, you might have some people that want to stay connected to you. What would be the best way for them to reach out if they got a question or want to connect more?
Sure. So my email is first name dot last name, Carrie.Birchler at asathrive.org. You can connect with me through our school Facebook or Instagram pages. I'm in the community. So if you find yourself joining the community, definitely get active, get involved, ask questions, reach out. I tend to be quieter and more observant because I get so much value, but I also really have a goal of giving back because I've been benefiting a lot from that membership.
And if you don't just want social media tips, but you also want to know how to throw a really good party with like the world's biggest charcuterie, however you say that board, you're going to want to talk to Carrie because Carrie was at my house and had to like fly home and get, I don't know, you got there like in the middle of the night or left here in the middle of the night to get home and plan this whole party for a friend. And it was beautiful. So,
We celebrated the retirement of a dear teacher. She's been with us through several schools and she's absolutely amazing. So we pulled together and celebrated her. And I definitely had help with that charcuterie and the desserts and all the such. But, again, it's about community and it's about celebrating.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, Carrie, thank you so much for sharing with everybody today. This is really valuable. I hope people take a look at Asana. Just talk about, look at planning out your content and really focusing on telling those stories. So,
For
um,
sure.
thanks for joining us, and everybody. Let's get back together next week to have another chat and learn some new stuff about social media. I will certainly be here. I hope you will be too. So we'll see you next time. Bye
Thank
bye.
you so much, Andrea.
You
Bye.
bet.